Hi, my name is Rachel Chimuka, and I'm a second-year MSc student in the geography program at Simon Fraser University. My research is in climate modeling, focusing on the behavior of the land and ocean carbon sinks in scenarios with carbon dioxide removal. Our climate research lab is a very inclusive space where I have felt very supported, and so most of my negative experiences have occurred outside of the lab environment.
Hi, my name is Laura Taylor and I'm a medical laboratory assistant in a histopathology lab in the NHS in the UK. I just wanted to give some of my sort of thoughts and opinions and experiences of being a woman in STEM. So I did my undergraduate degree in biomedical sciences and I did my master's degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. And sort of through university and sort of through my first couple of jobs in STEM, I sort of realised that the higher up the workforce that you get, so the more like senior positions, things like that, the fewer of them were women. So at the ground level on my course there were a lot of women. In my master's there was a lot of women. There was quite a few female PhD students and things like that, but the higher up you got, the less women there was. And it wasn't even just that there was less women, the diversity was like less as well with regards to like sort of people of colour and, you know, disabilities and the LGBTQ plus community. So the diversity wasn't really there, and that's something that I noticed quite early on.
Hello, my name is Martina and I am a woman in STEM. I have a bachelor and a master degree in biotechnology, and I recently graduated a PhD in food chemistry. I am the first of my family to even attend university, so I am a really first generation college student. And this was a bit challenging because I knew nothing about how university works, what are you supposed to do as a student, how you deal with the professors, and of course this ignorance became really evident when I applied for PhD programs and when I entered the academic world. So there are some unwritten rules when you are working in academia that I was not aware of.
Hello, my name is Dr. Janina and I wear many hats within the STEM field. It is an honor and a privilege to be a part of this initiative that is designed to showcase the many accomplishments of women in science, technology, engineering, and math. I got my start as a chemist working at the bench, developing reference materials for clinical, forensic, and other health-related projects. I since transitioned into a more program management role that allows me to really serve as a gatekeeper for opportunities for people that are looking to get more hands-on experience within this field. In addition to my role as a program manager, I also serve as a leadership coach, where my role is to really help others define what it is that they want for their careers and help them to strategize in order to obtain those particular goals. Outside of my 9-to-5, I also work as an educator. I've been teaching for over 15 years at the collegiate level, some version of general chemistry. And for me, there's no greater pleasure than seeing that light bulb go off when a student masters a particular subject. Beyond those two jobs, I also work as an entrepreneur. I have many efforts that are focused on really up-leveling other people in the STEM fields and helping them obtain a success within their careers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Chinitu, and I'm really excited to get involved in this project. I'll just say a bit about me and share my personal experience as a woman in STEM. So for my undergrad, I studied biomedical science at Newcastle University. Really loved it, really liked the diversity of disciplines we covered there, ranging from cell biology to genetics, to biochemistry, and an area that piqued my interest was reproductive science. So I went on to do a master's in reproductive science and women's health at UCL in London. And we covered, again, a range of topics ranging like from fertility to women's cancer, pregnancy complications. And a pregnancy complication that really, I guess, interested me was preeclampsia, mainly because it hasn't got a current treatment apart from preterm delivery, and Afro-Caribbean women in particular are affected by this condition. So I went to do a PhD in preeclampsia, so looking at statins and seeing the effect they had on vascular function in pregnancies complicated by preeclampsia, and that was at the University of Manchester.
My name is Vera. I come from Nairobi, Kenya. I am a researcher and an educator in the field of mathematical statistics. I'd say my enthusiasm and knack for figures explain my love for mathematics and fuels my strength to penetrate the major turbulence of being a woman in STEM. I'd say being in STEM, for me, it's wonderful, it's satisfying, especially because I feel empowered to contribute towards livelihood and development using the different creative and innovative mathematical concepts. That I can touch others' lives using mathematical models is a great thing for me, especially in the fields of health, agriculture, and enterprises. I mean, amongst many other disciplines. I always feel contented and hopeful that I'm able to contribute to these different areas with my mathematical standing.
I'm Dr. Suman, and I've worked as a woman in STEM for over 20 years now. I currently work in the academic sector, so I'm a lecturer at university, and during my 20 years of working in science, I've also become a mother, and I can honestly say that things have changed a lot in terms of what it's like to work as a woman in STEM from the start of my career until where we are now, which I think is a really good thing. I'm going to talk first of all about the positives that I find about being a woman in STEM. And the first thing that I'm going to say here is that there is really growing recognition of the issues that affect women in STEM. One of the examples of this is the Athena Swan initiative, which is in UK universities, which is there to make sure that there are no barriers for women in STEM or indeed any other protected characteristics such as age, race, religion, anything like that. And when Athena Swan first came out, I really thought it was going to be just something that people paid lip service to. But it isn't. It's actually something that has had a really good impact on academia as a whole, and is growing recognition of the issues that face women, and also the recognition that these are real issues and not just women overreacting, which has been something that's been said in the past. This is really helping to make science a much more inclusive place for women to work.
Now, I got my first exposure to becoming a scientist from my parents. Both of my parents were nuclear engineers, and they made sure to expose my siblings and myself to the many opportunities that exist for people with STEM degrees. From take your sons and daughters to workday, to going to computer camps, to buying my very first microscope at the age of 5, they've always immersed me in the different opportunities that are available for people with this particular type of degree. I really credit my high school chemistry teacher for providing me with the encouragement and support to really decide to pursue obtaining a degree in chemistry. I got my bachelor's degree from Tennessee State University, which is a historically Black college or university, and got my PhD from the University of Illinois at Chicago in analytical chemistry. And I've since gone back to school a few times to get executive certificates in both leadership coaching and diversity and inclusion.
Hi, I'm Chedlia Ishak. I'm an early career scientist who has specialized in stem cell research, genetics, and biochemistry. I completed my bachelor's degree in New Zealand in 2012, and I returned to Sri Lanka where I did my MSc and MBA. I opted to return to my home country because I felt that the youth needed to see the opportunities that were available for scientists and opt for careers in STEM.
Alongside this, there's been growing recognition that the old habits are not acceptable anymore. So whereas when I first started my career, it'd be quite common for particularly male senior colleagues to have conversation with my chest rather than my face. And back then it was just like, oh yeah, that's just what happens. They do that with everyone, it's fine. But there's now that won't happen, which is a really, really positive thing, because it shouldn't happen and it shouldn't be acceptable. And with the changes that we've had with Athena Swan, I do think that this is really helping to make that unacceptable.
And it was an amazing experience doing my PhD. I was based in St. Mary's Hospital in the Maternal and Fetal Health Research Centre. It was lovely working with a multidisciplinary team, clinicians, scientists, midwives. It was great. I learned so much whilst there. And also outside of the lab, we took part in public engagement, talking to young children about the placenta, how it works in a normal pregnancy versus how it works in complication. Even like the traveling opportunities, going abroad, sharing our research through oral presentations and posters. It was just a really edifying and cultivating experience. But obviously everything comes to an end. So final year, I was wondering, what next? What do I do? And I wasn't too sure. I wanted to pursue a career path as a postdoc and become like get a fellowship and things like that. I was very passionate about lecturing, but I thought at the time that you had to do a postdoc and then eventually branch into lecturing. So I thought, oh, what else am I passionate about? And like I mentioned, I do enjoy talking about science, communicating it to different target audiences, whether that's orally or written format. So the idea of being a medical writer appealed to me. So I started to do my research into that. And so, fast forward, I now work as an associate medical writer at a healthcare communication agency. I've learned a lot of really valuable skills about content development, and I've now actually secured a new job as a university lecturer, or teaching fellow. So that's a teaching focused lecturer, and I'm really, really excited about it.
And I think the final thing that I'd say, which is a positive, is that in science we don't tend to be judged by our appearance, which is something that is quite refreshing, particularly when I speak to my friends who work in other careers. You have to spend half an hour in the morning getting your face ready. In science you don't, because you're not there to look pretty, you're there to do your job and to have an academic contribution. So I think this is another really good thing about working in STEM.
So where I come from, everyone thinks it's unusual for a woman to study any of the STEM subjects. And for me, I consider this as a stereotype, especially because it's just a social structure that is not cast in stone. I mean, really, there are no limits for a woman to pursue STEM subjects. So for me, it doesn't really discourage me to get to what interests me. And I think I feel more confident because out of a simple research, I noticed that people out there who also face such kind of stereotypes, very common in Africa, I would say. And it's something that we need to quite deal with as women. So off my head, I remember there's this quote from Tara Van Vleck, who believes that gender is fluid, yes, but the social structures are not. And that's why for a woman, where it's necessary, you should just escape them or break them or bend them all together if you can. And so that really gives me the confidence of just ignoring these stereotypes.
So before I get into those experiences, I'll mention that my intersectionality as a Black woman means that my experiences of racism will differ from a Black man, and my experiences of misogyny will differ from a white woman. And most times, it's difficult to tell which part of my identity is being oppressed at any moment. And so in my experiences, I will not attempt to tease that apart. Most of my negative experiences have occurred at academic conferences or workshops that I attend, hoping that I can share my research and learn from my peers and experts in the field without any barriers related to race or gender. During poster competitions, I find that I spend nearly half my time answering questions related to my cultural background. Where am I really from? How did I style my hair? Or how did I style my headscarf? These questions aren't inherently bad, but they do take away, firstly, from my ability to share my research. Secondly, from my competitive advantage in a competition where the judges should be focused on evaluating my work and not my appearance. And lastly, from my confidence.
I also think that women have this sort of misconception that we need to look professional all the time, or what professional is. And I think we worry a lot about sort of how we're perceived and that we're not going to come across as professional. So when I was at school and we were learning about like interviews for the first time, we had sort of a cutout of a man and a cutout of a woman. And for it's like, how can a man come across as professional in an interview? It was literally wear a suit, wear a tie, maybe have a shave. For women, it was wear a blouse and make sure it's fully buttoned up, wear a skirt but make sure it's not too low, like not too short. Don't wear too much makeup, don't have your hair overdone, don't wear too large earrings, even down to don't have long nails on and make sure your nails are a nude or a clear colour. Like, that is how nitpicky we are, and so from such a young age as well, which I think is really dangerous, because we're not unprofessional. We are not at all, and we don't need to be like this all of the time. And I think that's something that's really important to get out there, that this is not what a woman in STEM looks like. There is no box. Like, we can look like honestly anything, and that is something that I think is really, really important.
Moreover, just to add more challenges, I am autistic. I think that I have always known about my neurodiversity, but I was diagnosed when I was 32 during the last year of my PhD, which was a pretty peculiar year because in that year I became pregnant and had a daughter, and also after a leukemia diagnosis, my mother died. So that year really changed things for me because I became aware that all the stuff that were normal to me but strange for the others were due to my neurodiversity. And also I experienced the lack of compassion and empathy and humanity inside academia. So when my mom died, I was 5 months pregnant and I needed time. I needed time to cry, to heal, to see a therapist, and I couldn't focus on the work. I tried to go to work, but I just sat there and did nothing, wrote nothing at all. So when I asked for a leave, that was denied to me, and therefore I talked with my doctor, and my doctor wrote me a diagnosis of grief, and she said that I needed to stay home and rest. But even in the month that I stayed home, I continually received email from my PI and from my peers asking me something work-related. So it has been challenging.
Having said all that, it's not perfect. It's still a journey and a work in progress. And I think one of the biggest issues that face women in STEM is a really quite a high prevalence of imposter syndrome. And with imposter syndrome, this can have a really significant effect on your well-being and your confidence in working in STEM. It's something that I've experienced a lot throughout my career, and it can actually have really quite tangible impacts on gender balance, because I think that the high rate of imposter syndrome in women, it's not to say it's only women who get it, men get it as well, but it's much more common in women, is the pay gap. And one of the reasons for this is that as a woman, I have never ever negotiated my starting salary. No matter where I've worked, I've always been that grateful that they felt that I was good enough to do the job, that I've just taken it at the base rate and not negotiated for wage, which none of the male colleagues have done. And so my male colleagues always tend to be on a higher pay than I am, because I've not had the confidence at the beginning to make that negotiation. So I think that would be one of the things that I would recommend for women who are coming into STEM, is just to have that confidence, know your own worth, and to negotiate the pay where you can, because you are worth it.
I also think that the environment in STEM needs to change. So with regards to career progression, especially with people wanting to start families in academia and having to take time off for pregnancy, things like that, because I think that can sort of impact a little bit on on career progression. Or sometimes people will ask, are you expecting to start a family, so that they don't give you that opportunity to progress in your career.
And also after my daughter was born, I experienced the difficulty of having a career in academia and being a mother, because, for instance, there is no childcare inside my university, so I needed to find a childcare outside my workplace, which is fine, I found it, but of course it's not really easy to leave a 6-month-old daughter in a place which is distant from the place where you work.
This is not without its challenges, and one of the key challenges that I've had to face is standardizing protocols to a Sri Lankan setting such that it could be replicated in the developing world. Interestingly, this challenge led to an opportunity where international scientists were intrigued by an alternative that I proposed while disseminating my research at conferences. The biggest positive that I've noticed in my career is that Sri Lankan society inherently values science, and this is evident in how receptive they are to participate in research studies.
Now, coming up as a woman of color in the STEM fields, of course, I have been met with many challenges. Like many that look like me, there have been times in which I might have experienced feelings of isolation or even imposter syndrome when dealing with the fact that I might be the only person that looks like myself in a particular environment, whether that be the lab, an office space, or a meeting. But one of the ways that I've been able to overcome this is by making sure that I have a strong support system around me. From mentors to coaches to just friends, I've been able to really have that support needed to really overcome those barriers or obstacles that may exist. So I encourage others to really explore different affinity groups, professional societies, and other areas that exist to gain the support that you need. Essentially, there's strength in numbers, so by finding people that have similar interests to you, similar backgrounds, it becomes a lot easier to navigate these hurdles.
So in terms of, I guess, what could be improved along my journey, maybe just knowing the different career paths you can go into after doing a PhD. There's industry, there's, postdoc research, going into NICE, being a systematic reviewer. You can be a lecturer. You could go into healthcare consultancy. There's so much. Be a clinical trials manager. And I think knowing the breadth of careers you can go into is a very important thing. Also, having a mentor, I think, would have really helped me at the time during my PhD, someone who could guide me on my next steps. I do now, thankfully, have 2 mentors who have been a great help. But during my PhD, I think it also would have been good. So that's the second thing that could have been improved.
I remember growing up, I wanted to be a firefighter, and because I loved seeing fire trucks and all these operations that it was capable of doing. I mean, I would feel like there was very high level of coordination and teamwork between the firefighters, and all this was towards saving lives and saving properties. And I believe that was quite fulfilling and rewarding. I don't quite remember. It's not very clear for me when this changed, but what's clear for me is that my dad played a significant role towards building my confidence in mathematics as a subject. The only thing we didn't know was that I would go beyond looking at mathematics as a subject, but to pick it as a career path. And I think if there's anything I never regret, it's about taking my father's wisdom, and that has enabled me to hone my math acumen. So specifically, I remember during my elementary level of education, there were lots of symposiums and mathematics contests, which I found very exciting and fun. And it was because there was very constructive competition between boys and girls without necessarily looking at either gender. And it was so delighting, you know, if you match the best, and you'd feel very confident, and it was just fun, I would say. And so I would see my dad keen to prepare me for these contests, and particularly he would want to attend them. He was actually present in all the contests that I had ever participated in, and his primary motive to attend the contest was just to cheer me up and watch me take the lead. So every other time when I would feel nervous, I would just look at him and would see that contagious and reassuring smile on his face, and that would definitely pull my confidence in participating in these symposiums.
So how can we fix this? I think a good start is data collection, creating a collection of the negative experiences of Black women or women in general at these academic conferences, and then making recommendations for how these microaggressions can be eventually eliminated. For example, questions about cultural background could be strongly discouraged during poster competitions, but that conversation could be continued during the break time, for example. I think if we can do this, we would have already taken the first crucial step at creating a better academic environment for Black women and women in general.
I also think that we need to use the privilege that we are given to help raise up the voices of those who don't have the same privilege. So I am incredibly aware that I am a white woman who is cisgendered and who lives in the UK, and this gives me privileges that aren't always available to other people. So it's definitely up to me and up to other people to raise the voices and raise the profiles of those people that don't have the same opportunities, and to give those opportunities and to raise awareness. That's something that we all really need to work on. So no one needs to be silent, no one needs to be a bystander. You need to work on this and use that privilege. I also think that men, don't be a silent bystander. Men need to absolutely as well support women. I see them all being like, oh yeah, like really, really like happy that International Women's Day is a thing, and then they're just really quiet about it. Or they say it's not all men, or they do little things that just make us really aware that actually you're not in support of us. So I think that you need to absolutely raise your voices as well, and make sure that people are aware that you're also supporting women. So I think that's pretty much just what I wanted to say. Just use your privilege to raise the voices of those who don't have the same. We are professional, no matter if we're in a lab coat or in his pyjamas, we're professional, no matter what. There is no box for what a woman in STEM looks like, and just keep supporting women, because I think the future is going to get better and it is definitely brighter. So just keep going, because we have so much more to give.
And still, another challenge is the fact that I'm a woman, I'm blonde, I have tattoos, I am good looking, I think. So when I say that I am a food chemist and a scientist, People usually reply to me, but you don't look like a scientist, or you go to the lab and you have all these tattoos, and sometimes I like to dye my hair, so I have violet hair or blue hair, and people say to me that this look is not appropriate for a scientist. So I think that we definitely need to have more women in STEM, because we need to show girls that you can be a scientist wherever your look is, wherever your gender is, wherever the color of your skin is. If you're passionate about science, you belong there. Thank you.
One of the other things is just that the old guard are never going to change. We're still going to, because of the time that we're in, we're still going to have a few senior people who are high up in institutions who have these old-fashioned sexist views. And no matter how much training or awareness that we give these people, they're never going to change their opinions. But what I would say is that they are getting fewer and further between. And so I think in the future it's going to be a lot better, because these people are no longer going to be here, who have retired. So I think overall, to summarise what I think about being a woman in STEM is it's a really good career for women, and it's still a way to go. So it's not perfect, but I would say that right now we're in a much better position than we were 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, and it's getting better all the time. And because of this, I think if my nieces or my young cousins, children who are female, if they want to go into science, I'd be very happy for them to do so, because I know that in 5-10 years time it's going to be even better than it is now. And we're going to get that increasing visibility of female role models in STEM at the higher professorial levels. The times are changing, and we just need to ride that wave and make it even better for the next generation to come.
Now that turned a bit, and there was evidently different experience when I joined university to start off now actively with my mathematics career. Something that was so definite and so obvious was the enrollment of women in STEM subjects. These were subjects that were male dominated, both for the learners and the educators. I remember close to 90% of my educators were all male. Sometimes this would feel very unwelcoming, somewhat insensitive, and very uncomfortable for me. Just to be sincere, it was not very easy, but even so, I had very supportive PhD course instructors, and they were very unbiased towards my attitude towards me. They had a very unbiased attitude towards me. They were keen to build me, they were keen to mentor me, and they would consistently encourage and advise me, especially through challenging situations.
I feel that the strength to overcome challenges has to come from within. And my within has been my lifelong curiosity to understand the mechanics of how things work and why they work. Making sense of chaos isn't easy, but identifying the angle with which to approach it is key to overcome the challenge you face. I would like to mentor young scientists and help them figure out the same. I believe that I bring a fresh and enthusiastic perspective to science, and I want people to realize that science is an adventure and you chart the course.
Now, some of my greatest accomplishments have really come to light in the more recent years. One thing that I'm super proud of is my time spent as an Embassy Science Fellow, where I was able to go to South Africa for 3 months and help develop curriculum focused on exposing youth and educators to different ways to learn and master STEM subjects. And then additionally, I'm also an artist and recently had this painting that's shown for you guys here, which is titled See It, Believe It, Become It, featured on the cover of Analytical Chemistry. And so this painting really is an ode to the pivotal role that educators and mentors play when it comes to shaping the mindset of young girls and their ability or their thought process about what they can become within the STEM fields. I'm hoping that more women, more girls will be inspired to pursue these particular subjects and really work on really engaging the younger kids through an initiative I started called STEAM Forward Academy. Through STEAM Forward Academy, our mission is to really expose kids to STEAM subjects. So STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, throw the arts in there, and math. And what that really allows kids to do is to explore these subjects in a really positive, fun learning environment. Our mission with STEAM Forward Academy is to promote and inspire children to pursue these subjects with confidence, curiosity, enthusiasm, and a genuine sense of belonging. So I'm hoping that programs like the one that we've developed, as well as the many others that exist out there, will get more women interested in STEM. It's been great sharing my story with you all, and I look forward to learning more about others in the future. Have a great day.
Earning a PhD in STEM field did not imply the end of challenges for me as a woman in STEM. I would say it's a continuous struggle, especially when I want to really balance between my enthusiasm of being a STEM woman and the deep realities of what we have to face. By and large, being a STEM woman or a woman in STEM, you have to really prove and demonstrate your skills beyond the threshold of your male counterparts, just to be able to overcome prejudice, to overcome any prejudices. And that can be very tiring, that can be very heartbreaking, I would say. But then you have to apply like 4 or 5 times the effort to just prove yourself, you know. And then the other challenge, I would say that it's this perception, how women actually perceive their own abilities in STEM. And I strongly believe this is something that we need to work on collectively together as women, because so long as we have a very strong perception on our abilities and confidence, that would definitely inspire younger generations to boldly enter into the STEM field. And I believe with the growing demand of applications into the STEM field, it's very critical that we build the next generation of women in STEM. And as I've said, the novelty of women speaking about STEM is becoming an advantage now, more than before. And it's especially because everything is expanding and changing so quickly that there are lots of opportunities for a tenacious attitude that wants to just go beyond possible hurdles and make STEM field more acceptable for the next generation of women. I believe there are numerous organizations, there are great organizations out there that support women in STEM, and it doesn't just end at that. There are tons of newer and exciting opportunities that are emerging that will definitely fit for women in STEM.
But overall, being a woman in STEM, especially a Black woman, I think I've had a really fortunate experience. I'm excited for what lies ahead, and I just encourage women out there to keep pursuing their dreams, to work hard and shine their light, and to go and work in places where they will add value but also be valued. It's important that you are seen and you are heard wherever you work, and that you are able to reach your full potential. But yes, keep going great. Take care. Bye.